Hi everyone and welcome back to HCT English. I'm Jack and I hope you're all doing great today. In this lesson, we're tackling a common problem many people face when learning to speak English, speaking spontaneously or on the spot without preparation. I recently received a comment from one of you about this, and many of you agreed. It's tough to speak English naturally when you haven't planned what to say. Now let's break this down. When you're giving a presentation or have practiced sentences beforehand, you might feel pretty confident. You know what you're going to say, so it's easy to speak fluently. But when you're in a random conversation or someone asks you something unexpected, suddenly your mind goes blank. Does that happen to you too? This is because you're trying to think about the right words, grammar, and sentence structure all at once, and that can be overwhelming. The result? You hesitate, take long pauses, or even freeze up. It's totally normal, but the good news is you can overcome this. So today, I'm going to help you solve this problem by showing you how to speak English more spontaneously without overthinking. But before we jump into the lesson, don't forget to hit subscribe so you never miss a new video. If you like what we're talking about today, give this video a thumbs up and share it with your friends who might find it helpful. Now let's get into today's topic. How to speak English spontaneously. Speaking spontaneously means that you don't plan every single word or sentence before speaking. For example, right now, I'm speaking spontaneously to you. I haven't written every sentence beforehand. The words just come to me as I talk. When you can speak spontaneously, it means you're not constantly pausing to think about what to say next. While short pauses are completely okay and even natural, long pauses can break your flow and make you feel nervous. Imagine someone asks you what are your plans for the weekend. If you take too long to reply because you're trying to find the perfect words, you might feel stuck or tongue-tied. That's when people get nervous and it's hard to keep the conversation going. This hesitation often leads to what we call being tongue-tied, a feeling where you just don't know what to say or how to start. You might have thoughts in your head, but you struggle to express them. This can hurt your fluency and confidence, which is why it's so important to work on speaking without overthinking. Now, I know this sounds tricky, but don't worry, you can train yourself to speak more spontaneously, and today I've got 6 practical tips that will help you do just that. These 6 solutions are your action plan to help you start speaking English without hesitating or overthinking. The goal is to make your words flow naturally without constantly thinking about grammar rules or translating thoughts from your native language. Over time, speaking will become more natural, and words will come to you more easily. So, let's dive into those 6 solutions. First, you need to immerse yourself in English. The more you hear it, the more comfortable you'll get. Second, practice speaking out loud, even if it's just to yourself. Third, think in English instead of your native language. Fourth, use simple sentences at first and gradually build up complexity. Fifth, engage in regular conversation with others, even if it's just small talk. Finally, don't be afraid to make mistakes. That's how you learn. Remember, it's all about practicing and building your confidence step by step. With time, you'll find yourself speaking English more naturally without planning every word. Let's get started with the sixth solution. Let's dive into solution 1 for speaking English more fluently and spontaneously. The topic: bringing clarity to your thoughts. As I mentioned before, speaking English spontaneously is tough if your thoughts are unclear. So, let's break it down. When we speak, what we say comes directly from what we think. Our thoughts are the foundation of our speech, and if your mind isn't clear about what you want to express, that confusion will show up in your speech. Let's imagine you're about to speak, but your thoughts are a bit foggy. Maybe you're uncertain about which word to use, or you're not sure if your grammar is right. What happens next? You hesitate. That little pause might not seem like much, but it affects your fluency and spontaneity. It's like being stuck in traffic. You know where you want to go, but you're unsure how to get there because of the blocks in your mind. Instead of focusing on the message you want to share, you end up worrying about the words, which slows you down. To be able to speak clearly and naturally, you need to bring clarity to your thoughts. But how can you do this, especially when thoughts and speech happen so quickly, often in milliseconds? Let's think about this. In your native language, you don't have this problem. Why? Because you've practiced it for so long that you don't need to consciously think about the words. If someone asks, "How are you in your native language?" you respond immediately without hesitation. But in English, you might pause because you're searching for the right words. That pause is exactly what we want to reduce. Now let me share a technique that can help you train your mind to think clearly and speak more naturally in English. It's called subvocalization. This might sound complicated, but it's actually quite simple. Subvocalization is when you silently repeat words to yourself as you read or think. It's like hearing yourself speak in your mind, but without saying the words out loud. Here's how it works when you're reading something in English, whether it's a book, an article, or even subtitles on a video. You're not just reading silently, you're also mentally pronouncing the words in your head. This internal voice or subvocalization allows you to practice English structure and rhythm without needing to say the words out loud. Over time, this helps train your brain to think in English more clearly, just as you do in your native language. Let's take an example. Imagine you're reading the sentence. She was standing on the balcony, staring at the stars. Even though you're reading silently, you might notice that in your mind, you can hear the sentence with the correct tone and rhythm, as if you were saying it out loud. This is subvocalization at work. It's like you're practicing speaking in your head, preparing your brain for real conversations without the pressure of speaking aloud. By practicing this technique, you're not just reading for understanding, you're training your subconscious mind to process English faster and more clearly. This way, when it comes time to speak, you'll find the right words and sentences coming to you much more naturally. You've already prepared your brain by feeding it with correct structures and phrases during reading. Another great benefit of subvocalization is that it boosts your confidence. Think about it. The more you practice thinking in English, the more comfortable you'll be when speaking it. You won't have to pause as much because your brain already has a clear set of words and phrases ready to go. It's like training for a race. The more you practice, the better prepared you'll be when it's time to run. So, the key to improving spontaneity in English isn't just about speaking more often. It's about thinking more clearly and training your brain to be ready for those unplanned conversations. When your thoughts are clear, your speech will follow. In summary, bringing clarity to your thoughts is crucial for speaking English naturally and confidently, and subvocalization's a powerful technique that can help you achieve this clarity. Remember, it's like rehearsing in your mind before the real conversation begins. With regular practice, your subconscious mind will start to pick up the patterns, structures, and vocabulary you need, and you'll be able to speak more fluently without hesitating or overthinking. So, start practicing this today when you read. Don't just focus on understanding the text. Hear the words in your mind and let them flow naturally. Over time, this will make a huge difference in your ability to speak English with confidence and spontaneity. Now let's dive into solution 2, which is about training your subconscious mind. This is the most important step in learning to speak English fluently without overthinking, you see. Your subconscious mind plays a huge role in how you process and use language. Right now, your subconscious is fully comfortable with your native language, but for English to feel as natural, we need to train it. When your subconscious mind is familiar with English, you'll be able to speak without feeling nervous or unsure. For example, while you're listening to me right now, your subconscious is already absorbing everything I say. But here's the thing. If you don't keep revisiting or practicing this information, it will fade over time. The key is to keep practicing until your subconscious holds on to English in the same way it does with your native language. So how do we train the subconscious mind? One of the best ways is through listening. Listening to English regularly creates an inner environment where English feels familiar and comfortable. Think of it like training your brain muscles. You're creating a natural flow in your mind where English becomes second nature. Start by listening to content that's reliable and fluent. It could be anything: educational videos, entertainment, lifestyle tips, or even health-related topics. YouTube is a treasure trove of English content. You could also watch movies, listen to songs, or explore podcasts. The key is to make sure you're hearing English that's spoken correctly and naturally. By surrounding yourself with good English content, your subconscious will start storing the language. Over time, you'll notice a big difference in how naturally English comes to you when you speak. Let's move on to solution 3, which is all about learning to think in English. Now that we've talked about clarity of thought and using the subconscious mind, it's important to focus on how we think. If you want to speak English fluently and spontaneously, you need to stop translating from your native language. Thinking in English is key. Here's what happens. When you're used to thinking in your native language, your brain works in 2 steps. First, you think of something in your native language, then you try to translate it into English. This slows you down and makes speaking more difficult. To break this habit, start describing things directly in English. For example, if you see a book, don't let your first thought be in your native language. Instead, train your mind to immediately think book in English. The more you practice, the more natural it will become. Over time, this will help you respond faster and with more confidence during conversations. The goal is to make English your default thinking language, especially when you're speaking. This doesn't need to feel forced. Gradually, it will become a habit. The more you immerse yourself in English, the easier it becomes to think and speak naturally without translating. Remember, the key to speaking spontaneously is thinking in English. As you practice this daily, you'll see yourself becoming more fluent and confident. Keep at it, and you'll notice the difference. Let's dive deeper into our discussion with War Solution 4, which is all about focusing on flow, not flaws. When learning to speak English, many people get stuck because they focus too much on the mistakes they make, or what we call flaws. But here's the key. Focus on flow, not on flaws. What do we mean by flow? Flow refers to the smoothness of your speech, how naturally the words come out and how easily the conversation moves forward. Fluency is, after all, about having a good flow. Too often, English learners are afraid to make mistakes. They stop mid-sentence, overthink every word, or hesitate before speaking because they don't want to say something wrong. But the truth is, mistakes are a natural part of learning. They're a sign that you're trying, that you're pushing yourself to improve. So instead of focusing on these mistakes, shift your attention to maintaining a steady flow when you speak. Think of speaking English like a performance on stage. When an actor performs, the audience sees the result, not the rehearsals. The actor might have made mistakes in practice, but during the performance, the focus is on delivering the lines with confidence. The same goes for you. When you're in a conversation, it's time to perform. Whether you make small mistakes in grammar or pronunciation doesn't matter as much as the overall flow of your speech. The goal is to keep going. The more you practice, the more naturally the words will come, Flow leads to fluency, and fluency leads to spontaneity. As you keep speaking without getting stuck on your mistakes, your mind will become more accustomed to forming sentences smoothly. Over time, you'll find that you're able to speak English more confidently and with fewer errors. Now, let's talk about Solution 5, which focuses on using small sentence structures. When learning to speak English, using smaller sentence structures can be extremely helpful. Many learners struggle with long, complex sentences, which often become jumbled and hard to manage. When translating from your native language, you might try to cram too much information into one sentence. This can cause confusion and lead to mistakes. Instead of trying to create long sentences, focus on expressing one idea at a time. Short, clear sentences are easier to handle and will help you speak more fluently and spontaneously. For example, instead of saying I want to go to the store because I need to buy some groceries, but I also need to pick up my laundry, you can break it down into two sentences. I need to go to the store to buy some groceries. After that, I'll pick up my laundry. Using short sentences allows you to think clearly and stay focused on one thought at a time. This not only makes your speech more fluent, but also helps you avoid mistakes in grammar and sentence structure. If you're aiming for accuracy in your speech, small sentences are a great way to achieve that. It's important to remember that short sentences don't mean incomplete sentences. You should still aim to use complete thoughts but avoid cramming too many ideas into one sentence. This approach will make your speech clearer, easier to follow, and less likely to get mixed up. Additionally, shorter sentences give you the opportunity to pause, take a breath, and prepare for the next thought. This helps maintain a steady flow of speech without overloading your brain with too much information at once. Over time, as you become more comfortable, you can gradually increase the length of your sentences. But at the beginning, focus on keeping things simple and clear. Our sixth solution is perhaps the most important. Practice regularly in real situations. No matter how much you study grammar or vocabulary, the real progress happens when you use English in real-life situations. You need to put yourself in environments where speaking English comes naturally. This could be in conversations with friends, joining language groups, or even chatting with colleagues. Start with a small, comfortable conversations and gradually move on to more spontaneous ones. As you begin to speak English more regularly, your mind will start to adapt. You'll begin to think less about grammar or sentence structure, and your speech will become more automatic. Speaking English regularly builds fluency, just like muscle memory. The more you use English in real-life situations, the more familiar your brain becomes with forming sentences on the spot. It's like learning to ride a bike. The more you do it, the more natural it becomes. And don't worry about making mistakes. Everyone makes mistakes, even native speakers. The key is to keep communicating. Your goal is to get your message across, not to be perfect. Communication is more important than perfection. If you can get your point across, that's a success. Over time, your fluency and spontaneity will improve, and you'll make fewer mistakes. But don't let the fear of mistakes hold you back from speaking. To summarize, here are the 6 steps we've covered. 1. Train your subconscious mind. Immerse yourself in English by listening and reading as much as possible. Your subconscious will begin to adapt. 2. Bring clarity to your thoughts. Subvocalization and thinking in English will help you organize your thoughts more clearly, making it easier to speak spontaneously. 3. Think in English. Avoid the translation process. Train yourself to think directly in English to reduce hesitation and improve spontaneity. 4. Focus on flow, not on flaws. Maintain a steady flow of speech even if you make mistakes. Fluency comes from continuous, smooth speaking, not from perfect grammar. 5. Use small sentence structures. Break down your thoughts into clear, concise sentences. This will make it easier to stay focused and reduce mistakes. 6. Practice regularly in real situations. Put yourself in English-speaking environments as often as possible. Real-life practice is the best way to improve fluency and spontaneity. Now, let's talk about a few extra tips that will help you on your journey to fluency. Set small, achievable goals. It's easy to feel overwhelmed when learning a new language, so break your learning down into smaller tasks. For example, set a goal to have a 5-minute conversation in English every day or to write a short paragraph about your day. Over time, increase the difficulty of these tasks. This will help you track your progress and build your confidence as you achieve each goal. Consistency is key. Even if you only have time for a short practice session each day, regular practice is more effective than cramming once a week. Daily exposure to English will keep your brain engaged with the language and help you recall vocabulary and sentence structures when needed. Celebrate your progress. Learning a language is a long journey, and it's important to recognize your achievements along the way. Whether you've held your first conversation without hesitation or understood a complex sentence in English, celebrate these milestones. This positive reinforcement will keep you motivated to continue improving. Challenge yourself gradually. As you get more comfortable with English, push your limits a little. Try discussing more complex topics or practice talking about abstract concepts like happiness or culture. This will expand your vocabulary and improve your ability to think and respond in English on the spot. Finally, stay patient and positive. Language learning can be frustrating at times, but mistakes are a natural part of the process. Keep a positive attitude and remember that every mistake brings you closer to fluency. With time and consistent practice, you'll see your English improve. That's all for today. If you found this video helpful, don't forget to give it a thumbs up and subscribe to HCT English for more tips on improving your fluency. Hit the notification bell and I'll see you in the next video.